Do the bodies of some saints transform into flowers after death? Hello everyone, I'm Pulkit Mathur, founder of The Spiritual Bee, and this is an interesting question whose rational answer we shall explore in this video. For it so happens that when we read about the lives of great saints who have lived in the distant historical past, we come across legends that relate that after death, the body of so-and-so saint vanished or that it was transformed into a heap of flowers. For example, in the case of Mirabai, the great devotee of Lord Krishna, a story exists according to which Mirabai physically merged into the idol of Lord Krishna and vanished never to be seen again. Similarly, in the case of Saint Kabir, a legend exists according to which after the saint's death, his Hindu and Muslim followers began to quarrel with each other as to how their guru's last rites should be performed. Hindus wanted to cremate Saint Kabir's body, whereas Muslims wanted to bury it. As the dispute was going on, the shroud covering the saint's body was removed and it was discovered that his body had miraculously transformed into a heap of roses. Hindus took one half of the flowers and cremated them, whereas Muslims buried the other half. In this way, it is said that Saint Kabir bestowed his grace and resolved the dispute of his followers even after death. So to an inquiring mind, the question arises, do such things actually happen in reality? This query was put before Mother Meera, the God-realized sage, avatar and spiritual collaborator of Sri Aurobindo. A disciple once asked her, "Mother, I have read that the bodies of some saints after their death have disappeared and become flowers or just vanished into the sky. Can such a thing happen?" Mother Meera replied, "Everything is possible, it could have happened, but I do not believe it did. We cannot always believe what is said in books. Nor is there a necessary connection between such a phenomena and sainthood. For example, some mediums, as they are called, have an unusual capacity. They are put in a chair tied to it, guarded by people, and the room is locked securely from outside. Then darkness is created in the room. After some time, longer or shorter according to the medium's power, the knots are found untied, the chair is seen empty, the occupant has disappeared. Then in an adjoining room, the person is found lying down in a deep trance. Through closed doors and thick walls, the medium has passed. It is by the power of deconcentration and reconcentration of the physical substance. Phenomena like these have taken place under the strictest scientific control. So they do genuinely occur in rare instances, but we must remember that they are no sign of sanctity. There's nothing spiritual about them. What is at work is purely a capacity of the vital being, that is the prana shakti or the life force and the desire force of a person. And often the mediums are people of very low character with not a trace of anything saintly. So to come back to the point, in connection with great or holy men, all sorts of stories get started. The disciple then remarks, "It is also reported that you, mother, never write with the pen. The pen just writes for you." "There you are," mother replied. This is just how such stories get started. So the answer is that while it is possible that the bodies of great saints vanished or transformed into flowers, it is, however, not very likely. What is more likely instead is that in the passage of history, the devotees of these saints, filled with love and reverence for their guru, made up these stories with the aim of imprinting upon the minds of others the spiritual greatness of these saints and to convince them to imbibe their teachings. In fact, as Swami Vivekananda has explained, in the Middle Ages in India, there was not much of a focus on being factually correct in every detail. In the first place, many sects believed that in order to preach a good thing which may be beneficial to many, there was no harm in telling an untruth, a little story around it, if that helps such preaching, or in other words, the end justifies the means. Hence we find many of our tantras beginning with Mahadeva said to Parvati. Secondly, the general population too lacked a scientific temperament. There was little tendency in them to find out truths by historical research, to find out whether what was being claimed really occurred in the historical past or not. They did not bother to demand any proofs. Because of both these factors, in ancient times, anyone could say what he thought best without substantiating it with proper facts and evidence. In this way, legends and stories grew. In fact, even in the India of today, most people continue to lack a sound rational and scientific temperament. For this reason, superstition is still widely prevalent in India. The claims of Babas, Tantrics, Pandits and fake gurus are swallowed blindly without the slightest objective evaluation. However, our duty, as Swami Vivekananda has strongly emphasized, should be to convince ourselves of the truth and to believe in the truth only. Such is the power of superstition or faith in old traditions without inquiry into its truth that it keeps men bound hand and foot. Therefore, we have to keep our eye always fixed on truth only and shun all superstitions completely. Now, apart from learning to separate truth from fiction when it comes to ancient legends, the other thing for us to remember is that God-realized saints can and do perform what an ordinary mind would term as a miracle. However, they do not do so like some kind of a circus showman in full public view with thousands eagerly watching their every move. A God-realized sage is not at all interested in displaying to the world how spiritually great he or she is, or that he or she enjoys a special sanction, a special authority from God. Neither does a God-realized sage care to accumulate throngs of slavish followers or seal his or her place in the history books. Only a person with a massive ego would immerse themselves in such self-centered pursuits of shameless self-promotion and seeking of fame, adoration and personal greatness. A God-realized sage instead is one who has entirely overcome such low, petty and selfish pursuits by completely annihilating their ego or sense of I-ness. Having overcome the ego and attained to the infinite divine consciousness, the minds of such saints are always immersed in the purity of God. And so they preach out of pure delight, out of the sheer ananda of taking the Lord's name. Another reason they preach is out of a tremendous sense of compassion for the miseries of others. Such pure souls have no need for resorting to showmanship, for employing gaudy displays of miracles and manufacturing objects out of thin air in order to attract followers, because people are naturally drawn to them, pulled in by the power of the truth in their words. Such God-realized saints may, however, on an individual basis, perform certain acts like curing a disease, extending a person's lifespan, offering them divine protection in times of distress, bestowing Shaktipat, awakening the Kundalini, etc., which are commonly termed as miracles. However, as we shall see in our next video, such miracles are not performed by God-realized gurus willy-nilly and for free. Instead, before bestowing such divine boons, a responsible guru first judges the patrata or the deservingness and the capacity to receive such an act of grace of the disciple, by ascertaining whether such a bestowment of boons would advance the disciple's spiritual development or retard it by pushing the disciple lower into the quagmire of laziness, greed and sensory enjoyment. Only after making such an evaluation does the guru go ahead and grant divine boons. Now we shall explore more of this critical and fundamentally important Vedantic concept of patrata, without which it is impossible to receive the grace and boons of the divine, in our next video. Until then, thanks for watching and goodbye.